Do you know what water tastes like? Think about this for a second. It is something so ordinary and ordinary that we take it for granted. I'm not talking about the water you ingest while swimming in the ocean or your neighborhood pool. I'm talking about supposedly the purest form available today, bottled drinking water. Bottled water has a very distinct taste, at least to me. I can easily tell the difference between bottled water and tap water, and can even tell the difference between brands, the way a wine connoisseur can tell the difference between bottles of Chablis. I can also tell how long ago the bottle was opened. There is something about the taste, or lack thereof, that makes the experience unforgettable. And this isn't some weird superpower, it's just a quirk that I've come to appreciate over the years, and a lot more recently. My friends and family don't know about it, and I haven't even told my wife about it, and that's my story. Last year, Lauren, my wife, started buying these little squirt bottles of scent to add to her water bottles. The flavor was supposed to add zinc to regular water. Personally, I don't really like it. To me, it tastes like someone spit bubble gum into a bottle and shook it. Anyway, she decided to try them on me. I tried it and told her that I prefer clean water. She didn't get the joke because she kept secretly adding the flavored substance to the bottles from time to time. This periodic mixing has been going on for a couple of months now. I try to be polite about it, but when she doesn't look, I change the water to unflavored. And then, at our annual summer barbecue for the entire area, something happened that I did not expect. While I was working on 3 stoves and not paying much attention to anything but steaks and hamburgers, Lauren walked past me and pressed a bottle of water into my hand. When we have a party at our house, I don't like to drink alcohol, so I carry a bottle of water with me the whole evening. Without thinking too much, I took a sip and realized it was one of her flavored ones. I didn't swallow, but leaned over to check the propane tanks and spat it all out without anyone seeing. I spat it out not because of the blackberry flavor, but because of something else I didn't recognize. There was a faint metallic taste along with a hint of something that resembled sulfur. I didn't know what it was, but I definitely wasn't going to swallow it. I left the bottle between the propane tanks and started cooking. But for some unknown reason, an alarm went off in my head. As nonchalantly as possible, I looked around at the crowd in the backyard, smiling and continuing to cook. Everyone was either deep in conversation, filling their stomachs, or jumping up and down in the pool, everyone except Lauren and Bob. They sat on a sun lounger and furtively watched me. I wonder what for, I thought. They seemed to be having some kind of serious conversation, glancing at me from time to time. And how did Bob get here? I don't remember inviting him. Bob is one of Lauren's co-workers who lives a few blocks away and has recently been showing up at all the events we've been to. I never thought about him until today. The alarm continued to howl. Once all the steaks were served and the burgers were plated on the picnic table, I turned off the burners and closed the lids. Lauren was looking at me. I caught her eye and pointed to the kitchen door. I went inside and grabbed another bottle of water from my personal stash. After removing the lid, I noticed that it had been opened before me, and upon sniffing, I discovered the same metallic component and a hint of sulfur. Maybe it's just a defective batch? I thought. I placed it on the counter and turned sharply to my wife. "What happened, Chuck?" she said with her sweet, slightly curved-lipped smile. "Oh, nothing, just replenishing supplies. I think we have a bad batch of water. It has a funny taste." "Oh, I don't understand how this can be. You probably just ate something, and that's the aftertaste. What did you do with the one I gave you?" Thinking quickly to avoid getting into trouble, I made up a little white lie. "Oh, I finished it. Here, I've come for another one." She smiled and ran her fingers through my hair, all the while looking into my eyes. "Okay," she said, taking the bottle I had just placed on the counter and handing it to me. "Take this one and go outside. Look after our guests. I'll clean things up a bit here." As I walked along the path to the pool, Bob stood up and went inside. I noticed because that damn anxiety in my head was howling louder than ever, and every time I looked in his direction, it went up an octave. Something damn strange was happening. But what? I walked through the crowd of friends and walked to the side door that led to our bedroom. As quietly as possible, I tiptoed to the door and listened. "I don't know," Bob said. "The guy who gave it to me said it affects everyone differently. Some feel the effects immediately, while others take an hour or two. Be patient." "Well, I'm too damn horny to wait," Lauren growled. "I want your pants off right now. Damn it, Lauren, don't ruin a good moment. Once these partygoers leave, we'll have our own party. Be patient. It was you who wanted me to have sex with you until I lost my pulse, while he slept in bed next to us. I don't even know why, because he has always been a good husband to you." Yes, he was a good hubby, but he was too vanilla, too predictable in bed. I want a little excitement, a little danger, without compromising everything I've worked so hard for. And you, sir, provide this little danger. And you are certainly not vanilla. Yes. Well, I also don't want to do anything so as not to lose you. And I remember that I promised never to cross your path. You have a very evil temper. Well, if you want me to be patient, you'll have to kiss me to put everything off for later." There was silence, and then a groan that I had heard many times before, usually at night. The feeling in my stomach was like nothing I had ever experienced before. My insides were burning, and my heart was beating faster and faster. The images in my head were like a poorly dubbed Asian movie as the years passed before my eyes. The screen in my head replayed every moment since I first saw Lauren across the room in our European literature class, each scene repeating the same dialogue. Lauren repeated over and over, "I want your pants off right now." My head was ready to explode. "Now you have enough to hold on until your hubby falls asleep?" Bob asked in a whisper. Yes, lover," Lauren said, responding to his whisper. "Now get out of here before they see us." I went out the side door again, but didn't go back into the party. Instead, I walked in front of the house where everyone was parked. I needed to be alone and think about what I had just heard. So I sat on the porch steps and began to reflect on my life. For some unknown reason, I still had the water bottle with me that I had pulled out of the refrigerator just a few minutes ago, before my life changed. When I realized what was happening and what was in the water, I threw it into the yard. I sat there for a very long time and no one bothered me. Memories of the past mixed with fear of the future as thought after thought ran through my mind, trying to make sense of recent events. I knew what was happening now, but I needed to understand what would happen next. I had to put an end to the games that were being played at my expense, and I had to cause as much damage as possible to the criminals. One of whom, for now, but not for long, is my wife. After which I turned my attention to the bottle of water that I threw on the lawn. An idea was formed. Then a smile appeared. "It's time to get off your butt and do something." I grabbed a bottle of water and walked back to the party. With all the control I could muster, I found Lauren and said, "I need to run for a beer. I'll be back in a few minutes." She put her hand on my shoulder. "Do you think you can drive?" I looked at her and said, "Yes, I didn't drink anything except water. I'll be right back." I turned around and left her standing. As I closed the garage door, I caught a glimpse of Bob approaching it. In the garage, I emptied half the water bottle, added a couple of extra ingredients, shook it well, and placed it in the cup holder on the center console. I had to stop at the drugstore before going to the liquor store. I remembered that my grandmother always kept in her medicine cabinet and threatened us children with something called ipecac syrup. I never dared to contradict my grandmother because I knew what ipecac syrup was for. Now, it was perfect for my situation. When I reached the liquor store parking lot, I rinsed my mouth with a sip of bottled water. Without swallowing, I spat it all out onto the front seat. Then, he took his new purchase, walked to a dumpster next to the building and drank half the bottle. The rest was thrown into the trash can. My stomach churned as I stumbled into the store on very shaky legs. When I was about halfway to the counter, I exploded like Vesuvius. Everything I had eaten in the last 24 hours was spewed onto their beautiful, clean floor. I fell and curled up, shaking like a leaf in the wind. The vomiting continued while the clerk tried to walk around the puddles to check whether I was alive or not. He quickly gave in and called 911 when I started moaning. One of the best police officers in our city arrived before the ambulance. I'm sure she thought she'd just found some drunk collapsed in the liquor store. But when she saw me and the spasms that shook my body, she changed her mind, or that's just what I imagined as I lay there. Sir, can you hear me?" she shouted in my ear. Sir, what happened? Have you had too much to drink?" "No, just a bottle of water. My wife gave it to me. In the car." I left the bottle in the car. Then I vomited in her direction. Fortunately, she jumped out of the line of fire in time. I saw the police take a bottle of water from my car while the paramedics loaded me into the ambulance and took me to the hospital. Once at the hospital, they did all sorts of blood tests and drained what little I had left in my stomach. I lost consciousness after they shoved a tubie down my throat and into my stomach. Some time later, the same policewoman and, as I assumed, a doctor, came into my room and woke me up. "Hey, where am I?" "Mr. Barry, I am Officer Park, and this is Dr. Woyokowicz. Can you answer a few questions?" "Yeah, I think so. I'm a little dizzy, though. What's happened?" "Sir, you passed out at ABC Liquors. Do you remember being there?" "Yes, I went for beer." "How much did you drink today?" "Nothing. When we have a barbecue at our house, I don't drink. I might have to drive some guests home at the end, so the only thing I drank was a couple bottles of water my wife gave me. That's all." "Honestly? Are you sure?" she asked. 100%. "Oh, and a couple more pieces of hamburger." "Okay, then I think we might have a problem here. I'll let Dr. Woyokowicz tell you the rest." The man in the white coat began to speak. "Mr. Barry, the bottle of water that the officer took from your car contained a mixture of a sleeping pill called triazolam, a strychnine-based rodent poison that can be purchased at almost any hardware store, as well as digitalis purpurea, a common plant called foxglove. All three components were in sufficient doses to cause this attack in you, and if you had not been brought here immediately, you would probably have died within a few minutes. We'll have to keep you here for a couple of days to make sure there are no neurological or organ problems associated with absorbing this combination of toxins. You will now be given intravenous fluids to flush out whatever is left. We'll be able to tell you more in a couple of days, but for now, all you need to do is rest. Let the nurse know if you feel anything strange. I mean, anything. And, Mr. Barry, I must say that you are lucky. Luckily, your body rejected the toxins. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Honestly, you're lucky to be alive. In my opinion, the combination of this mixture of poisons could not have been an accident. Someone mixed them up for you in a big way." The room became terribly quiet. Officer Park excused herself and went into the hallway to answer a call on her cell phone. The doctor silently patted my hand, smiled, and left. I just turned away from the door and smiled too, but the smile turned into a frown when I thought about Lauren. When Officer Park returned, she looked worried. "Mr. Barry, I just spoke with another officer who came to your home to talk to your wife. When he told her what happened to you, she ran out into the backyard and started screaming and yelling at one of your guests, Mr. Robert Michaels. From what the officer told me, they both accused each other of putting something in your drinking water. Things turned violent between the two of them, so officers had to break them up. There was a lot of screaming, yelling, and other accusations that I can't talk about right now, but after they calmed down a bit, both were taken to the station. Your wife and Mr. Michaels will be questioned so that we can determine how they were connected to your predicament. Depending on their statement, charges may be filed. Whoever did this to you will be in serious trouble. They will be charged with attempted murder. Nothing could be more serious than this. Right now, you just do what the doctor told you to do. Rest and don't worry about anything. I'll leave you my business card, and if you have any questions or remember anything useful, you can call me at any time. Oh, and the water here is safe to drink, or so I was told. Good night, sir." I didn't have a good night. But they got more. Lauren and Bob received 3 to 5 years in state prison for second-degree assault. I asked the state prosecutor to show leniency because I did not want revenge, but only justice. They took the plea deal when it was offered to them, Otherwise, the state would have filed a charge of attempted second-degree murder. They will probably be released on parole in 2 years, provided they behave well. The guy who gave Bob the sleeping pills got 1 year for distribution of a controlled substance. He will have to wear an ankle bracelet for a year. Bob's wife filed for divorce after the verdict. Everyone at the party heard Lauren and Bob screaming accusations at each other about who put poison in my water and who you had sex with. News of their romance spread quickly. I have also been divorced for some time now. The only time I spoke to Lauren was 30 minutes after the sentencing. She apologized about 1,000 times. All I asked her was if this is what she meant by a little excitement and a little danger. I haven't seen her since then. I didn't talk to Bob. I'm still waiting for him to get out of jail before I have a heart-to-heart with him. Or should I say talk to him with a baseball bat, which will be in my hands. Now when I drink water, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.